thing I would love to ask you, basically, let's divide in groups, yeah. Like you, it's two of you. More people coming, yes, Andres, come in. We're gonna, the first part, what we're going to do is, well, the aim of this, or what we wanted to do, is actually to get hands-on and create, together with you, some games. Actually, let you create also the games. Yeah? And the first part will go through the process of what, actually, well, many things have been said already in this morning's presentation, but how a game comes to life. So that's the first 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to talk about how, what's in a game and what's the process from the idea to the production. And it's going to be 4 of us today. Daan Kreek is a game designer, has its own also publishing company in Netherlands, has done thousands of pitches and is a professional game designer. Jānis Grunte is here. Is a game designer. He also works for Brain Games as inventor relations. So
yeah, I've talked.
I've
talked a lot to Daan. Daan has pitched to me, and I've denied a lot of his pitches, like threw them back, pretty much all of them. So I'm going to be the angry one.
He's
I'm kidding.
Simon Cowell. You're the Simon Cowell of
exactly.
Latvia's Got Talent.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, I'm also here because Egils is my boss, and he made me do it.
Well,
it's true.
It's not true. And David is inventor, I would say, not only of games, of toys, but inventor in his heart. And he's definitely one of the most creative persons I know. And has got a lot of experience in product design and also, of course, not only the creative part, also engineering part, and like bringing the whole product until the market. And well, since you are here, I hope that you are interested.
And who are you?
Creating. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And my name is Egils. I run a board game publishing company, Brain Games, and I've co-designed a couple of games, and and well, Brain Games is also a distributor, a retailer. So yeah, Brain Games has been basically in all the vertical life of games, starting from an idea, bringing it to the consumer on the shelf. Yeah.
And just to get an idea real quick, because our intent here is to go just kind of do a hyper-accelerated, going from an ideas that you guys are going to generate on your own or collectively as a group or in your teams, to something they're actually holding and able to play in a really truncated, just a couple of hours. And it's just, the whole goal here is to learn some tools that will come in handy for your everyday process, whatever it is you're working on. And I'm curious, just to get an idea of the room, who here has launched a game before? Is there a couple of people? And you wouldn't be here if you weren't interested in launching a game. Everybody's interested in at least launching a game at some point. That's the goal, mostly. Yes. And so what we're going to do is just kind of break down some of the normal, or some of the steps. Some of them may seem really basic, but it's just trying to get that idea out of your head, out of the world, and into something that's like play testable and that makes sense. Because we've seen, especially coming from inventor relations, or Dan and I coming from the pitch side, where we've got to go in, and some days, or over like 5 days, we might pitch 60 different companies. In one meeting, we might pitch 10 different concepts. And so That's like, what, 600 rejections over 5 days. We're able to understand what it takes to get to a good presentation or a good game mechanic, something that actually makes sense. And so that's part of what we want to boil down is with this process is what are we going to, what does that look like for you guys? And if you're, and I think these kind of tools are also something that you can apply to other areas. It's not just like making a card game, because some of you are digital, some of you are more complex, but we're going to just do this more with like a card-based sort of play experience for the sake of this lab.
Yeah. Shall we go through this?
Yeah.
Jānis, you want to do?
Yeah, sure. Or maybe Daan wants to. Go, you go. You do. Just the process of coming up with
Like 5 minutes about the
yeah.
like process. How
Okay.
How do you come up with the game?
Well, for me, that is maybe different from you, actually, because normally for me, it works throughout the night, as you mentioned. Sometimes I wake up and so I see it in a dream and then immediately write it down. But luckily for me, I can also just based on a briefing. So, for instance, I'm not sure about you, probably yes, you also get wish lists from big companies. And then sometimes I already have something that I connect to something else to make it happen. But then you get some guidelines, what they are looking for. And that's, of course, very helpful. Because an idea can come from everywhere. But the concept itself mostly is, for me, completely different from what David is doing, because I'm not technical at all. So I just come up with simple mechanisms and then try to build a game around it. And what can I say?
And you've done a lot of card games. Card-based games, yes, but everything, so dice games, party games, but that's also cards, and not so much the strategic stuff. That's what I don't do. Everything else I do.
Yeah, part of that initial concept too doesn't have to be a complex thing. A lot of the best play experiences are coming from a very simple thing. One simple rule change. I was talking with the guy who invented Nerf and Twister. You know both brands. He's around, I think he's 83 years old. I had interviewed him the other day and I asked him what's the important thing about making a good game, and he said you have to break a rule. Yeah. You look at Twister, and culturally, you're not supposed to get close to somebody, especially during a pandemic-y thing. But like, Twister, the whole idea, you weren't supposed to get close to somebody of the opposite sex if you weren't married, and this is like the 1940s or whenever it came out. It helped that he was on like a famous TV show with Johnny Carson called The Tonight Show with famous actress Zsa Zsa Gabor, which helped launch that game. But he broke a cultural norm, some sort of rule to make a game. Nerf in the same way. You're not supposed to throw a ball in the house or shoot a dart at somebody. He broke a rule and created a game. So it's just one simple little twist that you can find your inspiration for kind of coming up with this original idea.
Yeah, and by the way, I forgot to mention that I studied organizational psychology, but part of that is also personality psychology, and there's a big source for me. So I do quite a few party games where I use, for instance, like a system coming from psychology. So, for instance, the Big Five is a personality test in the psychology, and so so some model that has been invented by somebody else can be a start to get a game going. So that's maybe helpful as well. For me, it does. What else can I say about the concept?
One of the things when you're kind of putting together concepts too is you want the concept to somehow match your game mechanic, and we'll probably get into this a lot more later. And I brought one example because we've got Egils got a bunch of the stuff from Brain Games, a bunch of pieces and cards to where you're just making a simple prototype to begin with. And as Dan had mentioned, like sometimes an idea just comes in a dream or whatever in your sleep. A couple years ago, like I live in Montana, which in the United States, which is like north of Yellowstone in the middle of the country. And there's cows I drive by every day. And do you guys know what Oreo cookies are? Yeah. The black on the one side, white in the middle, black. I called them Oreo cookie cows. I don't, because that's what they look like, big Oreos with legs. And I just kind of cataloged that. I was like, oh, that's kind of a neat idea. Maybe one day that'll come in handy. I don't know. It's just a cow. And I was actually taking a shower, and I had this idea of like, oh, what if you made a game that, you know, you had all the cow parts, kind of like the black front, the white middle, the black tail, and you broke them up to where you had to end up making, you know, your entire cow. And so I drew it in the steam in the window on the shower, and like, ooh, it works. And I went into the office, and it's like, nobody talked to me. I grabbed 2 blank decks and a Sharpie, and then Sharpied out the game idea of just like, what could that game be? And this was then, you know, what we play tested, we refined a little bit, and ended up becoming, you know, a game with Game Right and Game Factory, just as far as like a kind of a take that. Yeah, the Moose game, but it's kind of a fun example for trying to get an idea out quickly, because if I'm trying to explain to you, oh, I have this game idea, you just have cows, these pieces, and you got to build a cow. It's like not real exciting until, you know, you start playing and you realize, oh, I can maybe turn one of them into meat, or one of them gets abducted by an alien, or there's a Franken cow made of different cows, whatever it is that comes into play. Until you can actually sit down and play it, you really have no idea, or you can't explain your imagination to somebody. So making a prototype is vital for working out those kinks.
And I think it might be actually one of the biggest maybe obstacles for many gay or wannabe game designers, actually sitting down and trying to just start doing something. I mean, taking a piece of paper, drawing something, taking cards, starting to play, and in this case, this is why it's kind of, this location and this place is perfect for that, because all of you kind of are interested in that, and all of us are interested to try to create something, to have this hands-on experience. So we're not gonna talk theory a lot. Yesterday evening when I entered the game jam room, like people asked some theory, and the best theory is actually, well, trying to understand in a practical way, like sitting down and trying to actually do something, draw something, and then trying to understand what is the aim, what is the game, what is it that I want out of the game, starting with, I don't know, how long it should be, how many players, and then just starting to do something with real materials, with the tokens, cards, pawns, dice.
There's something really important about not being afraid or being brave with your ideas. Egils told me that Latvians are shy. Is that true?
Yeah, very.
maybe some. But as far as everybody has like, oh, that's just a bad idea, I don't want to put that out there. But that test, or that prototype, that what may seem like a failure, is simply giving you the next question that you have to ask to make the right thing. So don't be shy when it comes to just scribbling something down. It could be a really bad stick figure of a character. It doesn't have to be a very nice drawing, just enough to get your idea out and communicate it and see if the mechanic works. Does that make sense?
So I was wondering, is it good to ask if somebody already has an idea? Or if nobody has an idea, then we just come up with a maybe like a guideline to come up with a theme that maybe they can think of?
We have,
or-
yeah, we've got
Okay,
that
you got
coming
that.
for the.
Okay, cool.
One more thing I mention is, yeah, we're also gonna go through the pitching and rejection part of showing your game to people. If you want, that's not mandatory, but only people who pitch can leave this room afterwards. So obviously we will give you some advice and go through this, but like David said when we talked about this masterclass, rejection is biggest part of this, I'd even say. I mean, out of, if you heard Daan's or David's presentations this morning, I mean, out of thousands of ideas they've pitched, most have been rejected, right? So going into that, you have to have a, maybe I'm a bit pessimistic here, and but it's a big part of that. But still, that's not the end. You can, like David said, you can improve, listen, and something better might come out of it afterwards. Yeah, and from the production side, we as a, or Egils as a company who actually produces and licenses games will go through that as well. Who knows, maybe you'll pitch something and Egils will sign it right here, right, Egils?
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Latvia's got game talent.
Exactly. Okay, do you have any questions so far? Okay, then just start creating games, we'll wait.
Okay, but I mean, are you okay with the teams that you are in now? Or it would be great if there would be, well, yeah, 2 to 3 people per team, yeah. And then we have different materials. Pens, dice, different pawns, cards, a lot of cards. We have a lot of cards. So easiest, I think card games is one of the biggest segments. So just to kind of make it clear, it's not, the aim is not to create like a Euro something very heavy. We want to create small mechanics that might work later, I don't know, whatever, in any video or mobile, or in any of the gaming genres. And something, I mean, the most important is you create something that you like, that you think. And game creation is like the biggest part of it is playtesting. So we come up with an idea, we playtest, we look at it critically enough, we change something, we playtest again. And this is, and of course we are going to be there. We're going to like kind of try to help you and try to challenge you with the process. Yeah.
And there are some things between just sort of starting something, you know, in physics. Okay, I'm an engine nerd, and when you think of physics, like to get something to move, it takes more force to get it to start moving. Then once it's moving, it's easier to push it. And so one of the things when you're trying to build something, it's really hard to make that first mark on paper because you feel like you're just going to mess up that paper. Don't worry about it. You just got to start moving the markers and the pencils and cutting things, whatever you have to do to start testing it. But what we're going to do is start exploring some themes, some basic themes in your group, as well as some mechanics. And what's some examples of like game themes? Like, you guys have any? Somebody, what would be a game theme? The game of anything.
Yeah, no, but we need very concrete. To start something, you need something.
Bunch of people in the room trying to make games.
Okay, so that's your game.
What's
Good.
So, but so David, are you referring to like memory? Can be.
Well, that's more like a genre, like a game.
Yeah. Okay.
A game theme might be like cows.
Yeah. Okay.
What's something else that might be kind of fun to design a game around? What's that? Cats. Everybody, or some people love cats. magic cats. Food or magic food.
Gardening, it can be anything.
Well, it's always, I think, the biggest challenge is to understand, is it, well, yeah, the theme or the mechanic.
And when you're thinking of the mechanic, what would be, like, examples of mechanics would be things like a memory mechanic, where some things are face down and you have to remember what cards there are. Or a take that mechanic is like, oh, I'm going to play this on you and I get to slap you 3 times. Right? What's another mechanic?
So hidden information, trick taking, deck building, hand management. Those are the top ones, I would say.
And so when you've got these themes and these mechanics, you want them to somehow go together. Let's say I'm doing a preschool, cute kittens and their food, whatever game. I probably don't want to have one that's a take that where I get to slap you 3 times because I'm going to make my 4-year-old cry, right? So you want your mechanic to match the theme as you're starting to put those together. But what we can do with your teams, just for why don't we just take about 5 minutes and kind of discuss in your teams, just like we got some paper here, we'll pass it out, and you guys can start writing down a couple of just theme topics. Here, you guys can grab more markers and things, or
Yeah.
You can take anything you want from that table. You can grab cards immediately if you feel.
I mean, you
And so
and you develop it.
right now we're simply trying to think about themes. We're not trying to reinvent chess yet. Just simple themes.
But we're going to, right?
But we will. 7-layer chess with spears.
And slapping 3 times.
Okay. This allows us to plan things while
Sorry?
This allows us to plan the next thing while they do their brainstorm.
Yes.
So if they... Really? Okay, yeah.
I should have did this just to say keep it easy. You should have pitched that.
Yeah.
You should have just.
Oh, you can still do that, of course.
Yeah. Before you show this.
Yeah.
Well, then we have to.
But I can take my board game, which is there, and then pitch it as if it was new.
Is it published yet?
Yeah.
That's awkward if we reject the
So let's. So
I'm actually hoping that you say yes.
Come on, manners. What should be lacking manners? Because if we do this for just a few minutes, and then because what I want to do is break it into theme, types of game, as in like the mechanic, or which genre, and then what types of mechanics, because the mechanics are different than the genre. And so we can kind of get those in 3 separate boxes, and then they can mash those up. But that's, I feel like even.
So what if they cannot come up with a theme? We just give them a theme, or? Yeah, that's how I think coming up with a theme is easier than coming up with a mechanism, right? So,
The mechanism's
but
the hardest part.
maybe it's even helpful to say you can also think about an existing game and making something out of it. So just changing 1 or 2 rules.
So I think that's
Make it a
one.
different game. Yeah, abstract, yeah.
Yeah, what 2 games is it most like? I keep touching your screen, sorry. I'm used to greasy fingers on monitors. Sorry about that. And just a little bit of chocolate mousse on there.
I love this, by the way, that you put this text on.
Upside down.
Yeah, because then they will have to do it.
But you know, there was a game already with this now. It's called Now by Hurricane Games.
Yeah.
I don't
But
know.
from when
No,
was
no.
this? When was this launched?
A couple of years ago. Well, 2000.
I don't know. 2018.
Okay. So you were saying you were saying we should write down 2 games that they can alter if needed.
Well, when we talk about the mechanics, what we can say is like I had it a little bit later, but we can. It's like when you're talking about the mechanics, what are 2 games that it's like?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What are the 2 most similar? Like what? Like
I
oh,
guess we gotta hear what they come up with. I mean,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
even they write. They
No.
might be writing appendices or might be writing on things.
they're,
I think
right,
should approach them individually.
yeah. Right now they're working on themes. So just go. Everybody go check on themes. How are themes coming? This looks like mechanic. Okay, whatever it takes.
We're just thinking like
How are themes coming?
card game or war game or something. So the first idea is just a card game where you need to select one card.
Cosmos. Cosmos works. Now, if you think about a lot of the themes, usually, like, what kind of adjective could you combine with one of those things to mix it up? Like, what's something that, like, what would make food more interesting? That's different than, because there's a lot of food games, but what is it about, like, food that, or, what if I had space food game? Like, how could I go ahead and mix it up to where it's a little bit more unique? Something that doesn't. Yeah. So maybe think a little bit like what you could combine. Ooh, these are good themes.
Yes, it's like full of imagination.
It's like Neverfood from Neverland.
That's okay. The last one, for example, what you need to do is you have to cut it down to the bare bones. Start with a very, very simple mechanic. What is the first mechanic? The first idea you explained, just really like kind of take 10 cards and like imagine what those cards could be and start like just to experience if this is really something.
These are going to be just like short. These are just going to be like first, like 5 minutes short.
If you went the approach like you had already, or you just came up with the ideas of so you start like not from the theme but from the mechanics.
Probably it will be okay, but I remember that I had this brainstorm session where we would just put on paper on the flip over, for instance, okay, like strange creatures, and then some completely different how do you say, activities, and then combine those 2, and then all of a sudden there comes an idea.
That's what I told you. So as you guys are putting together your themes here, there's a lot of really good themes, and I was talking with the back table there, they had some really fun ideas, and something to think about as you're trying to stand apart with a new game is there's a lot of topics like cats or something like that cats are really neat, but what could you combine those with that would make it really interesting? Oh, what if they're exploding, right? Then you have a cat. So think about some sort of mashup between a couple of your themes. Maybe there's a couple you can put together, or some sort of adjective that's really going to change that. The next thing we're going to keep this moving, but the next thing we're going to kind of tie in here is the genre of games you guys are going to be working on. And so if you guys can kind of start to think of different types of game genres that might work with one of your themes. And what's an example of a game genre? Like Yahtzee, Hidden Identity. One of the easiest ways to do that is maybe think of two games that are the most similar to the type of game that you want to create. And that might help you kind of form your genre and mechanic. So go ahead and, like, you've got your list started of your themes or your mechanic, and you guys can reverse it. But now start to think about what is that mechanic or that genre you guys are looking toward. And write it down, draw it. Waste paper.
What if they don't know which two games it's similar to? We have to help them.
Yeah, we can go check out and give them ideas.
Yeah, I think so.
The whole is
Maybe you should mention that today's goal is not to create a game, but learn the exercise of creating a game.
No. 'Cause it's all. No, it's all hidden. Like, only we know that.
That's the game within the game.
That's the game within the game. Yeah, because it's. Yeah. With what?
dat wel. Som suggestion,
I forget the other
ja,
ones.
Okay.
So there's no numbers in that one, it's just a quick image recognition. I don't know the version in there. So how do you keep track of time? Do you use an actual timer? Or is it with cards based on turns? Like, are you going to create a clock or something where it's like a physical, like a make-believe clock? Or every so often like that, after everybody's turn, it doesn't have to be real time, especially with kids. It can be really stressful. And so if you if I have a card, I can almost have like a make-believe clock. I can turn the hand, or I can do that with cards. And every time it goes around, the game is over after 12 turns, or after so many hours, or whatever it is. So that's what I mean about trying to match like the mechanic of the cards you're playing with the theme. So if it's time, maybe figure out how to keep time with I've developed thousands of products. It's just so, all right, I'll leave you back to it. Okay? Can I help you guys with your game? Oh, it is. Okay. It's beautiful. I love it. That's clever. How's it coming? Economic war game tower of defense. What were the words you said? All of those. For 5-year-olds? Okay. It's like the apps where the food keeps coming. You gotta make sure you serve it to everybody. But this is a really good example of making your mechanic, how the pieces move through the board, match the theme. Because it's an industry farm, so you want physical action to match the. Can you be like the farmer here with the barbecue, waiting like you get? You will be the center. Like who's gonna? You get the points when you get to eat the cow. Just an idea. So, if I can get you guys' attention real quick, just a quick interruption. Something to ask ask yourself, your team, while you're putting together this theme and this mechanic, is who would this be for? Because if the genre of game is very complex, but yet the theming is very juvenile, like those don't match up, right? So what type of person or people group, is it going to be something that you're playing with families that have got like 6, 7-year-olds? Or is it going to be something that is more of like, hey, I'm going to get together in, my parents' basement with all my college friends and, eat pizza? Is it like college age? Try to make, yeah, question. What's that? Yes. Well, you can break those rules. Yeah, the first thing I said is you break a rule, but just you want to make sure that somehow, like the mechanic, if it's going to be a game for 3-year-olds, if there's special rules, special cases, the game is broken. And there has to be like 2, 3 rules at the most if it's for a 6-year-old. So that's what I'm saying. It's like you want the mechanic really to sort of match the genre and the target audience. And so like you just don't want it to be, just keep in mind who's going to be playing this. Because one of the things that I think game designers, like the pitfall we all have, is we design games for ourselves versus for a market. And sometimes we make the perfect game for us. And so think about who it's going to be for, and that's it. Go back. $12.50.
Thank you that you organized such events.
It's fun coming up with just ideas.
These kids, I need to talk to him to get where to buy those to organize for students, for game jams, to just awesome.
Is there, we stopped in his store in Brain Games and got a bunch of those from the store.
Cook up with him in high school.
Yeah.
Because those, I remember.
Do you have game crafters where you live?
Yeah.
I know I get a lot of stuff off of, I guess, I don't know if Amazon is here. Do you have, for me, I just get everything on Amazon. I just buy 100 of everything at a time.
Almost on eBay sometimes you can crazy stuff. And it's so nice that he's so excited. And you can see that he's very professional. They have this engineer thought suddenly doing like 3-dimensional. That's what we've done with Professor Kaftaradze in Moscow. He had all those weeks getting sponsorship from university, getting us in the sanatorium of Moscow State University somewhere in winter when we don't get out. And for 2 weeks, he would just get us like task, invent this, like we first couple of days we teach each other's methodology, and then we just use this new knowledge to create new games, and a whole bunch of new stuff for us.
That's cool.
But it hasn't been for like a couple of years now. It's really fast.
I gotta go check with these guys. Thanks. So we're 1 hour into it, I think. And so what I'm thinking is because if we tell them to, keep prototyping and iterating and testing, and then in about 40 minutes we'll say go ahead and then make your final version of it, like remake your game, like or if you need to. Yeah. And, yeah, they're starting to get there a little bit. Okay, just let them know to. So in 10 minutes, Okay. Everybody but I think the corner table, they're still trying to figure out. I gave them a couple of mechanics. Yeah. Okay. Can I get that on again? All right, so in about 10 minutes, you should be at a point where you can start working through some of your mechanics and doing some imaginary turns. So you got about 10 minutes until you have the ability to do like some sort of turn in your game. It's not all fleshed out, but some sort of test in your group. And then from there, we'll start to refine and play test.
She's organizes everything. All are social. See if you guys hurry.
In such shape, then you can, for example, you can combine it differently. Then you combine it, you can combine it not only in this way, if you have cards, not just classical rectangular cards, but something like this shape, then you combine it differently. You combine it like this, and then you can build, like more, some more interesting, like a playing field. Yeah, pizza time.
Yeah, but we have kind of struggled. We are struggling now. Kind of have some ideas. Yeah, like we like the idea of this pizza, and putting the time with the pizza together.
And so we'd be playing against each other.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so on my turn, what do I do? On my turn, how do I do my turn?
You.
You don't know.
No, let's.
So do I have a bunch of cards that are face down?
Yeah.
That are a bunch of triangles?
In the different pizza flavors.
Or whatever they are. Yeah. Do I draw one and like what do we?
Sausage. The
Yeah.
simplest.
So for example, if you have like a different layers,
Yeah.
so you have this like a mikla.
Yeah. The base.
Your base for pizza is like so. And if I put the base, then you need to put. You can't put the second base. You need to put or the cucumber or the tomatoes or the.
Who puts cucumber on a pizza?
We have.
You mean pickles?
Yeah, I put pickles. Yeah, pickles. Yeah,
Okay.
It's the same as cucumber.
Cucumbers are. Yeah, pickles. Pickles are the pickled cucumber.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. So if your turn, you need to put the layer which like is you can't put a sauce in the middle, or maybe you can. So basically, yeah. To move the next step, we need to fill the pizza. For example, this pizza.
Are we all playing on the same crust? Is there one crust that we're all playing with, or is it do we all have our own pizza? Where are we?
No, it's like a field. It's like a field for all the gamers.
Okay.
And so.
It could be kind of separate as well. Like each has its own pizza then. But also.
What if,
You mean you have on your pizza and David?
That can be the case.
And well, I think it looks more cozy, you know, when we're like
Yeah.
building one pizza.
Yeah, that's true. Especially if it's with kids.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, and in the end, you probably will need to order pizza. Yeah, and you need to.
Yeah, like a domino, right?
No, you need to they fit to get the.
It's almost like
That's the idea, yeah. Or you.
That doesn't work, but here.
yeah.
Yeah, and so basically you need a card which fits, which can build the pizza drawing.
So if you're going to do something like this, it might make sense for everybody to have their own, and that's how you win, is you complete your pizza. You got to get the order up, get gears built, but maybe there's, because you don't want everybody just playing individual games. You want everybody playing together the same game.
True.
But even if I have my own pizza, what's maybe all the ingredients, there's something about what's in the middle that we have to draw from. And so like maybe there's some of these that are visible, that in the middle, let's say we're all playing and there's a couple here. I've got my pizza started. I've got 3, you've got 3, you're winning, so you've got 4 of them figured out. Yeah. And maybe we have to get 6 to win, whatever it is. On my turn, do I draw the next one? And I can't play it. But I can see you could play it, so I don't want to put it back down. Or I can discard it back into this pile and get another one, and I can play that one. Like, is there?
So we are making each one our own pizzas.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just an idea. You had mentioned it, I think. Like, header.
It could
Yeah,
be
but the
yeah. The kids, I think the kids like more kind of when you have a common board.
So I'm just trying to figure out how do you win.
Yeah, but then how do you win? Yes. Maybe it's the second, the outside.
Yeah, the one of the if you for example get rid of all of the cards, and how to say you can if for example all the pieces are finished, but the pieces of pizza are not enough. You know, for example the cards only I think only 12 or how many what is the name of the word of this? What is the name of this?
A pizza slice.
Yeah, that's the slice. So there's a quite small amount of slices in the pizza. For example, if we want to play longer than 5 minutes, you can just go on the second layer.
one, I know you were talking about time. I don't know how time fits into there anymore. Like, is there something else you can tie in there where it's like can my game token be like, can we have our tokens somehow integrated with the cards in the board? Where like I've got my mouse token, you've got your mouse, and like we're playing these, but this is giving me points every time I can get on a.
Yeah, and then there is a time. Yeah.
Possibly, or I get to eat the pizza as a little rat. I don't know. I'll leave it back to you again. I just thought I'd come in and help you brainstorm a little bit.
I think you're a very powerful team player. you are the Joker.
Yeah, the wild, the Joker, the fool. I'll play you back to it. Keep making. Yes. Go in the bathroom.
Our game's called Walking Starfish. The name is the best part of the game so far. We have feet for the starfish with numbers. And we can draw starfish and we can figure out how that comes together. These are Egils. I mean, I do fast, but
Get everybody out of their shell. I think on the game you have a game mat that you can use on. This is just an idea.
okay.
Just an idea. Because
Not the final product, so I don't accidentally confuse this again.
and we got